Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I am Conrad, and this is the 45 Premier League Match Week 19. Somehow, this is Match Week 19, after which only 5 teams will have actually played 19 matches. That would be Sheffield United, Brighton, Wolves, Palace, and Arsenal. As of right now, there are 7 matches that have yet to be rescheduled. Aston Villa, supposed to play tomorrow, not going to play. Yet another COVID-19 protocol postponement. They have to play 2 of those 7 rescheduled matches. They've only played 15 thus far. Crazy what's going on. First off,
definitely a very different year.
Sheffield United and Spurs. So they're one of those teams, Sheffield United, that have only played, or that have played, all full slate of matches, 18 matches. They've only got 5 points from that full slate. Coming off of the huge win over Newcastle 1-0, facing a tough run here, beginning with Spurs at Bramall Lane. So they remain at the bottom of the Premier League table, but they are 11 points from safety. It's not crazy. As unfortunate as they have been and as crazy as that sounds, I don't think it's over for them. They're not going to get to 40, but they may not need to because they can probably outpoint Fulham. They can probably outpoint West Brom. Then can they reel in Newcastle or Brighton or Burnley or some other club that just kind of falls off?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, you say West Brom that they could reel them in, but West Brom had a great win against Wolves today, so they're going to need to get some wins in these kinds of matches if they want to catch up and get some ground. We mentioned a couple days ago that it's a tough run for them, but you got to get some points in matches that are tough.
And Spurs are a great place for them to start. I would, they've had trouble finishing matches. They've dropped more points in the last 10 minutes of matches, according to Opta, than any other club in the Premier League with 9. Right. They actively avoid possessing the ball in the midfield, right? They're just happy to kind of sit back, play defense, attack on the counter. This match has a Mourinho meltdown written all over it. I do think Chris Wilder can figure out how to do what he did against Newcastle, pick up the goal, hold them, maybe it's a 2-1 kind of thing. But I think Chris Wilder's side have an opportunity to take the 3 points here.
Yeah, the expected goal gods are coming for their justice with Heung-min Son. He missed 4 big chances against Fulham. So if their forwards start to dip in form a little bit, then some problems could arise for them, for Spurs at least. For Sheffield United, important to get some points on the board finally. And I think it's been a matter for a couple of weeks that how much worse can it actually get. But I mean, we mentioned it with West Brom, and you need to get some points in some big matches. And there's the opportunity here. They've been dominated in a couple matches this year and haven't been fortunate enough to get the result. They'll have probably enough of the ball to consider that they would have a lot of chance opportunities. It's just a case of can you bury them? Can you be clinical? And whichever forwards show up in a hungrier, more lethal mood is going to be who takes the points.
They've just been tremendously unlucky. You talk about they should have 14 points, or maybe more. I can't remember what the number. You tweeted it the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just clinical. That ruthlessness.
Yeah. No side has underperformed their expected points that badly, so has to get better at some point.
I somehow I see maybe I'm just hoping for hope, just for Sheffield United's sake. I think they can squeak this one.
Wouldn't be surprised.
The big match of the weekend, the 2 most successful clubs in England, the biggest rivalry in England and perhaps Europe, if not the world. Liverpool, blah blah blah. Man United, blah blah blah. Liverpool host Man United at Anfield with no supporters. 5 match weeks ago, who saw this as a battle of the second team and the first team, with Liverpool being in the second spot. United have taken 13 of those 15 points in the 5 matches. Liverpool just 8. We talked about the inconsistency in this Solskjaer side, yet they have not lost since their loss against Arsenal on November 1st. 11 unbeaten. That's remarkable, right? We've talked about the injury problems that have presented selection challenges for Jurgen Klopp. On I think 2 or 3 different occasions, they've started 2 midfielders as a center back pairing, right? Getting a little bit healthier, but for Liverpool, Mark Bruno Fernandes, get your front 3 firing. For United, I think it's all about that midfield. If Thiago is in that 11, it's going to be down to how well United can counter that Liverpool midfield, which is probably their strength right now.
Yeah, people are tipping this as one of the biggest matches of the season, and rightfully so. It's one of the first instances of this rivalry in many years that it's 2 teams that are actually dominant and 2 sides that are firing at the same time. But I can't help but feel this is going to be a very boring game because knowing how Ole's record is in big games this season, where they've either underperformed in the Champions League, they've done decently against some sides, but the likes of Man City, the loss to Arsenal, as you mentioned, I believe a draw to Chelsea as well. they typically are more reserved in big games, which is very fair. I mean, Liverpool will do the same thing. They won't be as swashbuckling, but I imagine Liverpool will probably have anywhere from 55 to 60% of the ball, and it'll just be a case of, can Thiago provide a lethal spark from the midfield? I'd be interested if they start Shaqiri, because he's been very good against Man United for Liverpool, and yes, it was against the Aston Villa U21s, but he looked very electric. He was very creative with the ball, so I would be interested in maybe a 4-2-3-1, that kind of shape. But I think ultimately it's going to be down to Bruno Fernandes. Can Liverpool man mark him in, I believe, 8 matches against the traditional Big Six, Big Five, because Man United are part of the Big Six. In the Premier League, he has only 4 goal contributions, and 2 of them are penalties. So he's been kind of quiet in the big games. He wants to dispel the, I guess, not myth, but the perception that he's not a big game player. And it's a great opportunity for him to show up on the road, end a long home unbeaten streak at Anfield, and prove a point. Because if they go 6 clear, I'll be proven wrong, because they'll be actual title contenders. And Liverpool will have some serious problems. I think this is a draw is written all over this. I think Liverpool would be happy with that. Man United would be ecstatic with that. And they'd go into the next week into a legitimate title race with the next team that we're going to talk about potentially joining them as well.
Yeah, I think you're right about Solskjaer probably playing this one pretty conservatively. He doesn't like to risk, especially against a side that can be as lethal as Liverpool. But I do think Liverpool will tip this. It'll probably be like a 2-1. I think it'll be a low-scoring affair, to your point. Hopefully it's not boring. I'd like to see some excitement between these top 2 teams, but Liverpool with the win that would draw level, and we've got a hell of a race for the second half of the season between
would be great.
These two sides. And the one that you mentioned, Man City, they continue their march up the Premier League table. They're just right behind Liverpool in third, the game in hand, just 1 point behind. At the Etihad against Crystal Palace, City have won 4 in a row: Southampton, Newcastle, Chelsea, Brighton. Palace 13th on 23 points. That's where this team has been in the last 7 years in the Premier League, somewhere between 10th and 15th. They've lost 2, drawn 2, and just 1 win in their last 5. Do they have a chance? Of course. You mentioned West Brom beating Wolves today in the Black Country Derby. The 10-man Fulham gave Chelsea everything they could until they finally capitulated late. But Palace are defensively solid with some really good bright spots in their attacking lineup. But City just feel relentless right now. They're not doing anything remarkable. This is just a team that is going to grind up this league, and I would not surprise me if they won the title. Just, it's unremarkable as they've played. They're just winning matches.
That's the kind of title mentality they used to have, and they kind of lost it for a little while. I believe we both picked them as our title choices, so we'd be vindicated, proven right, which is a very rare thing to happen this season because it's just been so much incorrect. But I think it's going to be big for them because one of the sides ahead of them is going to drop points because that's how the sport of football works in the Premier League. So they'll be wanting to gain some ground. You'll definitely pass Liverpool if they drop points. And they'll get closer to Man United if they do as well. And so they are, I think, probably favorites at this point in the season because I believe they've beaten Man United in the league. They've drawn with Liverpool in the league. And so they've played most of their big sides as they get to the end of the first half of the season. And as they get healthier, if they can get a fit Aguero, I'm unsure if they're going to make any moves in the transfer window, but Stones at the back has been a revelation for them. Ruben Diaz has been phenomenal. Laporte has been tremendous as well. Ederson, when he's been fit, has been great, but and they've been winning these games, especially without players due to COVID. And that's been, I think, one of the most impressive parts is that they've lost a good chunk of their roster to the pandemic, and they are still churning out results. And so when they're finally fit, hopefully all healthy, then this is a side that I think everybody in the world would be scared to play against right now, especially if you're Roy Hodgson, because they're going to have 70% of the ball, and you're going to have to hold on for dear life. Guaita's going to have a fun time at the back in between the sticks.
I wouldn't want to be him right now, that's for sure. I seem to have lost my control, but that's okay. Leicester City right now sits second in the table. I guess they just scored. I'm not watching that match because here we are in camera. So it actually isn't a 1 versus 2 lineup matchup right now. It is a 1 versus 3
Leicester
matchup.
Ruining things.
But City, to your point, getting back to that one, it's inevitable that they're going to figure this one out. I feel bad for Palace. They've had some decent performances here and there. I had them dropping. There's still a chance, based on the way these bottom three are playing. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? But
yeah, I mean, there's a chance we're proven wrong, 100%. But I think one last thing is, between Man United, Liverpool, and Man City, we have not seen their full potential this season yet. And so I'm very excited that this actually could be a three-horse race if Man United figure things out. If they had
Leicester,
been more,
you think Leicester's going to fade?
I mean, I just think they have less talent. I think they've got a lot of talented players. I think it's just they're a tier below these top three. I think it's Liverpool and Man City as the top two tiers, and Man United maybe, if they get a result on Sunday, maybe make a case for themselves in that top tier. And then right below that is the likes of Man United, Spurs, Leicester, Chelsea's probably up there, even though they've been struggling. It's been a great season, and I think that if this is there's a draw maybe at Anfield, that'd be probably the best for the neutral because it's going to make the league wide open, even for the likes of Leicester. Chelsea could still make a run for it. It's going to be very exciting next couple of weeks, and it's a case of you can't win the title at this point in the year, but you can lose it, especially for Liverpool. Falling behind right now, you may have a really poor case of defending your title.
Well, that's it for what we think is Week 19. Week 19 will never end. We still haven't played Week 16. That's not finished yet. With poor Villa, they have 4 matches in hand. Jack, Conrad, this has been the 45. Please let us know what you think in the comments. Please do like and subscribe. Look for us on the Twitter at the 45. Take care now.